Admiral Liam Carter stood at the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station, his eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the strange object that had been detected at the edge of the solar system. After 30 years in Earth Defense Force, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "The probe is still transmitting, sir," said Lieutenant Greg Wilson, his voice tense. "The signal pattern hasn't changed." Carter nodded slowly. "And we're certain it's not one of ours." "Absolutely certain, sir. The technology is, well, it's beyond anything we've ever seen." News of the alien probe spread quickly through Earth's scientific community. Within hours, the brightest minds on the planet were analyzing the data. Among them were Dr. Kate Winters and Dr. Eric Mason, specialists in xenolinguistics and quantum physics, respectively. "The structure of the message is fascinating," Kate said, her fingers flying across her holographic keyboard. "It's mathematical at its core, but there are patterns that suggest language." Eric looked up from his own analysis. "Whatever sent this knows we're here." "The probe adjusted its course 3 times to reach our system. This wasn't random." After 72 hours of nonstop work, Kate burst into the command center where Admiral Carter was coordinating with global leaders. "We've decoded it," she announced, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. "It's an ultimatum." The message was projected onto the main screen. The translation was rough, but clear enough. "To the developing species of the third planet. Your existence has been noted by the Zorkian Empire. You will prepare for integration. Resistance is futile and illogical. You have 30 standard cycles to prepare your surrender. The Empire brings order and prosperity to all who serve." The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from all nations gathered to discuss humanity's response. "We can't possibly fight something capable of this level of technology," argued the Chinese ambassador. "Perhaps integration is not as terrible as it sounds." John Reynolds, Earth's top military advisor, shook his head. "History has taught us that surrendering to empires rarely ends well for the conquered. We need to prepare for all possibilities." President Laura Bennett rose from her seat. "Humanity has faced existential threats before. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own environmental mistakes. We will face this united." Back at the command center, Admiral Carter supervised the preparation of Earth's defenses. The planet had not seen war in nearly 4 decades, but the defense systems had been maintained and upgraded. "We're deploying the lunar artillery batteries," reported Commander Susan Reeves. "The Mars outpost is also on high alert." Carter nodded. "What about Project Aegis?" "The shield system is operational but untested at full capacity." "Then we test it now. We can't afford to wait." Meanwhile, Kate and Eric worked with a diplomatic team to craft humanity's response. After much debate, they settled on a message that was transmitted back through the alien probe before it was carefully quarantined. The message was simple: "We wish for peace, but we will not surrender. Consider this your only warning." 3 months passed. Earth prepared as best it could, converting industries to military production, training civilians, and strengthening planetary defenses. Then, exactly 30 cycles later as promised, the sensors detected massive objects entering the solar system. Admiral Carter watched the screens as the alien ships appeared. They were enormous, dwarfing anything humans had ever built. The Zorkian fleet had arrived, expecting an easy conquest of a primitive world. "All defense stations, this is Admiral Carter. Battle positions. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." As the alien fleet approached, humanity stood ready. They had warned the Zorkians to run. Now they would show them why. The Zorkian fleet moved through the solar system with military precision. 7 massive warships, each the size of a small moon, led the formation. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent metal unknown to Earth science. Behind them came dozens of smaller vessels, still larger than anything humans had built. From his command ship, High Commander Vex Lar observed the blue planet ahead. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his species. "Primitive," he said to his officers. "Their largest habitats are barely visible from this distance. Their weapons will be like toys to us." The Zorkian second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krell, studied the data. "They have defensive positions around their outer planets, Commander. Particularly the gas giant they call Jupiter." "A foolish strategy," Vexler said. "We will crush their defenses and show them the futility of resistance. The Emperor expects this world to be integrated within 7 cycles." Near Jupiter's moon, Europa, Admiral Carter's forces waited. The Earth fleet consisted of 30 warships, hastily upgraded with whatever technology could be adapted from studying the Zorkian probe. "They're approaching the defensive line," reported Lieutenant Wilson from the communications station aboard Carter's flagship, the EDF Valiant. Carter nodded. "Hold positions. Remember, we want them to think we're weaker than we are." The first Zorkian destroyer entered the kill zone. Carter gave the signal, and Earth's ships powered up their weapons systems simultaneously. Fire. The space around Jupiter lit up as energy weapons and missile systems locked onto the Zorkian vessels. The alien ships shimmered as their shields absorbed the first barrage, but Carter had expected this. "Phase 2, he ordered. From hidden positions among the Jovian moons, specially designed EMP weapons activated. Earth scientists had discovered a frequency vulnerability in the Zorkian shields while studying the probe. The pulses hit the lead destroyer, causing its shields to flicker and fail in sections. Aboard the Zorkian command ship, alarms blared. "High Commander, our forward destroyer reports shield disruptions. The humans are using technology derived from our own systems." Vexler's amusement vanished. "Impossible. Increase power to shields. Deploy the battle drones." The Zorkians launched hundreds of unmanned combat vessels, each programmed to target and destroy Earth ships. But here, too, humanity had a surprise ready. Captain Diane Foster's voice came through the command channel. "Admiral, the drones are approaching. Activating countermeasures." From Earth's fleet, smaller vessels launched what appeared to be simple missiles. As they neared the drones, they split open, releasing clouds of nanobots designed by Dr. Mason. The nanobots attached to the drones, reprogramming their guidance systems. Vexlar watched in horror as his own drones turned and began attacking Zorkian ships. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These humans were supposed to be centuries behind us technologically." The battle raged for hours. 3 Earth ships were destroyed, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect key positions. But the Zorkians lost the destroyer and 2 support vessels, losses they had never anticipated. Finally, Vexlar ordered a retreat to regroup beyond Neptune's orbit. In the aftermath, Admiral Carter assessed the damage to his fleet. "We've bloodied their nose," he told his officers. But this was just the first round. Back on Earth, President Bennett addressed the United Nations. "Today humanity proved we will not be conquered easily. But the real war has just begun." In his private quarters, Vexlar reviewed footage of the battle. Something about these humans disturbed him. Their tactics were unpredictable, innovative. The Zorkian Empire had conquered 17 species across the galaxy, and none had offered such resistance. "Begin research on human history," he ordered his intelligence officer. "I want to understand what makes these creatures fight with such determination." The officer hesitated. "High Commander, preliminary data suggests their history is unusually violent. They have fought wars against themselves for most of their recorded existence." Vexlar stared at the image of Earth on his view screen. Perhaps these humans deserved more respect than he had given them, and much more caution. High Commander Vexlar studied the holographic display of human history with growing horror. Images of Earth's wars played before him, ancient battles with primitive weapons, world wars with machines of destruction, and most recently, the brief but devastating resource wars that had finally united the planet. "They have been killing each other for thousands of years," he said quietly to his advisors. "No wonder they fight so fiercely against outside threats." His cultural analyst, Zifra, pointed to different sections of the display. The most disturbing aspect, Commander, is their adaptability. In just a few hundred years, they went from simple combustion engines to rudimentary space travel. And their social structure is chaos, added Krell. No hive mind, no central authority, just billions of individuals all making separate decisions. Vexillar's inner eyelids closed in contemplation. The Zorkian species had evolved from hive-minded ancestors. For most of their history, they had never experienced internal conflict. War had only become part of their existence when they encountered other species. But humans had been forged in conflict from the beginning. Meanwhile, aboard the stealth ship EDF Phantom, Lieutenant Olivia Daniels prepared her team for a dangerous mission. Their ship was coated with experimental materials that absorbed scanner waves rather than reflecting them. "Remember the objective," she told the 5 soldiers with her. "We need to get inside that command vessel, gather intelligence about their communication systems, and get out undetected." The Phantom slipped silently through space, approaching the massive Zorkian flagship from its blind spot. When they were close enough, Daniels and her team launched in specialized suits that propelled them to the alien ship's hull. "Cutting begins now," whispered Sergeant Frank Ortiz as he activated a laser tool designed to penetrate the Zorkian metal without triggering alarms. On Earth, scientists Sam Cooper and Maria Ramirez worked in a high-security laboratory, studying the remains of a Zorkian drone that had been captured during the battle at Jupiter. "Their neural pathways are fascinating," Maria said, carefully dissecting what appeared to be the drone's brain. "Look at how interconnected everything is. It's almost like it wasn't designed to think independently." Sam finished her thought. "More like it's part of a larger network." Maria nodded excitedly. "Exactly. And look at these receptor nodes. They're constantly seeking connection signals." Sam pulled up data from the original probe. "I think I understand now. The Zorkians themselves might operate on a similar principle, not quite a hive mind, but something close to it." He turned to the communication panel. "We need to get this information to Admiral Carter immediately. It could change our entire strategy." Back on the Zorkian flagship, Olivia Daniels' team moved silently through maintenance ducts. The alien ship's interior was strangely beautiful, with flowing lines and bioluminescent lighting. "It's like they've evolved their technology rather than built it," whispered Corporal Beth Kelly, the team's tech specialist. They reached a junction where Zorkian crew members moved about. Daniels observed them carefully. Though individually different, the aliens moved in perfect coordination, almost like dancers following invisible cues. "Look how they never speak to each other," Daniels whispered. "But they all seem to know exactly what the others are doing." Using the ship's schematics they had pieced together from probe data, the team made their way to what appeared to be a communication center. Kelly quickly attached a passive recording device to one of the data nodes. "This should give us everything we need," she said. "It's copying their transmission frequencies and protocols now." As they prepared to leave, a group of Zorkian security officers approached. Unlike the others they had seen, these moved with purpose directly toward their position. "They've detected us somehow," Daniels realized. "Fall back to extraction point." As the humans fled through the ship, alarms began to sound. The perfect coordination of the Zorkian crew suddenly became a terrifying advantage as they responded instantly to the security breach. The team barely made it back to their entry point, fighting their way through increasingly organized resistance. 2 soldiers were wounded before they escaped into space and back to the Phantom. Despite the close call, the mission was a success. Earth now had critical intelligence about how the Zorkians communicated and coordinated, potentially their greatest weakness in the coming battles. The Zorkian Empire was not accustomed to failure. 3 weeks after the humiliating defeat at Jupiter, reinforcement fleets arrived from distant sectors of their territory. The space around Neptune filled with warships, hundreds of them, bringing the force to nearly 20 times its original size. "The Emperor is displeased," Sub-Commander Krell informed Vexillar. "He has sent Grand Admiral Zexter to oversee the campaign." Vexillar's 4 eyes narrowed at this news. Zextur was the Emperor's most trusted military leader, known for his brutality in crushing resistance. "The humans have been fortunate, not clever," Zextur announced upon his arrival. "We will not employ the usual staged conquest. We will strike simultaneously at all their defenses and crush them in one movement." On Earth, the Defense Council received the news of the massive reinforcements with grim faces. "They've brought enough firepower to glass our entire planet," Admiral Carter said, studying the sensor readings. "Conventional tactics won't work against these numbers." President Bennett looked around the table. "Then we use unconventional tactics. Admiral, it's time to activate Project Phoenix." For decades after the Resource Wars, Earth had secretly maintained military installations beneath the surfaces of Mars and the Moon. These bases were officially decommissioned, but in reality, they had been continually upgraded with the most advanced weapons technology. Within hours of receiving the activation codes, dormant facilities across Mars and the Moon hummed to life. Hidden hangar doors slid open, revealing squadrons of stealth fighters and orbital defense platforms. Lieutenant Wilson looked up from his console on the EDF Valiant. "Admiral, Phoenix installations report ready status. The Zorkians still show no sign of detecting them." Carter nodded. "Good. Now we implement Operation Hornet's Nest." Throughout the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, small teams of Earth Special Forces had been deploying miniature jump drives on selected asteroids. These devices, based on technology reverse-engineered from the original Zorkian probe, could create small, controlled spatial distortions. "We can't match their firepower," Carter had explained when proposing the plan. "But we can turn the battlefield itself into a weapon." As the Zorkian armada pushed inward toward Mars, they detected no significant human presence. Grand Admiral Zextur grew confident. "See how they hide," he told his officers. "Their earlier victory was mere luck. Begin bombardment of their Mars outposts." The Zorkian fleet moved into position, unaware they were entering a carefully prepared trap. Admiral Carter gave the signal, and throughout the asteroid belt, jump drives activated simultaneously. Hundreds of asteroids suddenly shifted position, some appearing directly in the paths of Zorkian vessels. Collisions ripped through the neat formation of the alien fleet. Before they could regroup, the hidden Earth forces on Mars and the Moon revealed themselves, launching devastating attacks from directions the Zorkians hadn't prepared for. Deception. Treachery. Zextur raged as his flagship rocked with impacts. "How are they anticipating our movements?" The answer came from Dr. Kate Winters, who had been working with the data from Lieutenant Daniel's mission. The Zorkian communication system relied on a specific frequency pattern that linked all their ships in a network similar to their own biology. Once understood, it could be monitored and predicted. For 3 days, the battle raged across the space between Mars and Jupiter. The Zorkians lost dozens of ships to the asteroid traps and surprise attacks from hidden Earth bases, but their numbers were still overwhelming. In a desperate move, Zextur ordered psychological warfare tactics. The Zorkians began broadcasting images of devastated human colonies, threatening to destroy Earth itself unless there was immediate surrender. The broadcasts reached every screen on Earth, showing simulated images of major cities in ruins. But instead of breaking human morale, the threats had the opposite effect. Enlistment in Earth's defense forces tripled overnight. Production of weapons and ships accelerated. The planet that had known peace for decades remembered its warlike past and embraced it once more. "You don't understand humans at all," President Bennett transmitted to the Zorkian command. "We don't surrender when threatened. We fight harder." In his command center, Admiral Carter reviewed the data from Lieutenant Daniel's mission. Her team had discovered something crucial about Zorkian ships, their centralized command structure. Every decision flowed from the top down, with little initiative allowed at lower levels. That's their critical weakness, Carter realized. And now we know exactly how to exploit it. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, in the distant region known as the Kuiper Belt, Admiral Carter prepared his trap. The scattered ice bodies and dwarf planets provided perfect cover for Earth's remaining fleet. His flagship, the EDF Valiant, was positioned behind a large planetoid, along with 20 of Earth's most powerful warships. The Zorkians have taken the bait, Lieutenant Wilson reported. Their advance fleet is pursuing Captain Dawson's squadron directly into the kill zone. Carter nodded grimly. Dawson knows what's at stake. All ships, prepare to execute Maneuver Thunderbolt on my mark. Captain Alan Dawson's small fleet of 7 ships had been harassing Zorkian supply lines for days, appearing from nowhere to strike, and then vanishing before the aliens could mount an effective response. Now they were apparently fleeing, leading a much larger Zorkian force deep into the Kuiper Belt. Aboard his ship, the EDF Relentless, Dawson watched the tactical display as the Zorkian vessels followed precisely as planned. "They're so predictable," he told his executive officer. "They always follow the same pursuit patterns, never deviating." Grand Admiral Zexter, now personally commanding the pursuit, grew increasingly frustrated. "Why have we not caught these human vermin yet?" Increased speed. The Zorkian ships accelerated, closing the gap with Dawson's fleet. Just as they came within optimal firing range, Dawson gave the order. "Execute evasive pattern Delta." Now, his ships suddenly scattered in different directions, seemingly in panic. The Zorkians, confused by this new behavior, hesitated momentarily. That hesitation was all Admiral Carter needed. "All ships, execute Thunderbolt. Fire." From their hidden positions, Earth's warships emerge, weapons already charged. Energy beams and missile salvos struck the Zorkian fleet from multiple angles simultaneously. With their attention focused on Dawson's ships, the aliens had no time to raise their shields to full power. The battle was fierce and chaotic. 3 Earth ships were destroyed in the first exchange, but the surprise was complete. The Zorkian formation broke apart as individual commanders tried to respond to threats from different directions. On Earth, Dr. Kate Winters watched the battle unfold through real-time data feeds. For weeks, she had been working on what she called the Babel Protocol, a virus designed to infiltrate and disrupt the Zorkian communication network. "It's ready," she told the president, "but someone needs to get close enough to their command ship to deploy it." President Bennett contacted Admiral Carter immediately. "Kate has completed the virus. It needs to be delivered directly to their command ship's network." Carter considered his options. Most of his ships were engaged in the battle, unable to break away for a special mission. Then he received a message from Captain Dawson. "Admiral, the Relentless is damaged but operational. We can make one final run at their command ship." "Negative, Captain," Carter replied. "The risk is too high." "With respect, sir, this may be our only chance. We're already inside their formation." After a moment of silence, Carter gave his approval. "Godspeed, Captain." The EDF Relentless, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, turned and accelerated directly toward the massive Zorkian command ship. Dawson ordered his crew to evacuation pods, remaining alone on the bridge. "Transmitting the virus package now," he reported calmly as his ship absorbed devastating fire from the Zorkian defenses. The Relentless collided with the Zorkian flagship, its reactor going critical on impact. The explosion was visible across the entire battlefield, temporarily blinding sensors. When visibility returned, the Zorkian command ship was still intact but clearly damaged. More importantly, the Babel protocol had been successfully uploaded to its systems. Within minutes, the effects became apparent. Zorkian ships began moving erratically, some firing on their own allies, others simply drifting powerless. Without their communication network, the perfect coordination that made their fleet so formidable collapsed. "It's working," Wilson reported, his voice filled with awe. "Their entire command structure is falling apart." On the Zorkian flagship, Grand Admiral Zexter watched in horror as his control over the fleet disintegrated. Reports from all sectors indicated the same problem. Ships unable to receive or transmit orders, weapon systems malfunctioning, navigation systems failing. For the first time in his long career, Zexter felt something new. Fear. These humans had done what no species had ever accomplished before. They had broken the Zorkian coordination web. High Commander Vexlar approached his superior officer. Grand Admiral, perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this species. The Earth Defense Force headquarters erupted in celebration as news of the victory in the Kuiper Belt reached them. Scientists, military personnel, and government officials embraced each other, some with tears in their eyes. For the first time since the Zorkian arrival, humanity had achieved more than just a defensive success. They had dealt a crushing blow to the invaders. President Bennett raised her hands for silence. This is a significant victory, but not the end. We must press our advantage while the Zorkians are disorganized. Admiral Carter appeared on the main screen, his face showing exhaustion but determination. Madam President, I recommend we proceed with the Defiance launch. The Zorkians will not expect us to take the fight to them. The EDF Defiance represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, the first human vessel capable of faster-than-light travel. Built in secret beneath the lunar surface, it incorporated technology adapted from studying the Zorkian ships. Now it was ready for its first mission. In a private ceremony, Lieutenant Olivia Daniels was promoted to captain and given command of the Defiance. Her experience aboard the Zorkian flagship made her uniquely qualified to lead this mission. Your objective is not conquest, Admiral Carter told her during the briefing. Target their supply lines and communications hubs. Make them understand that distance will not protect them from us. The Defiance's crew consisted of the best Earth had to offer: veteran pilots, elite Marines, and brilliant engineers. Dr. Sam Cooper joined as Chief Science Officer, bringing his knowledge of Zorkian biology and technology. This ship represents everything we can do when united, Captain Daniels told her crew as they prepared for departure. Today, we bring the fight to the enemy's doorstep. The Defiance lifted off from its lunar hangar, its advanced engines barely visible as they accelerated the ship to incredible speeds. Within hours, it reached the edge of the solar system. With a flash of light that bent the space around it, the ship disappeared into FTL travel. Meanwhile, the Zorkian fleet was in disarray. With their communication network compromised, individual commanders struggled to coordinate their actions. Grand Admiral Zexter had managed to restore some order, but nearly a third of his ships remained unresponsive. We must withdraw to regroup, advised Vexlar. The humans have proven more dangerous than anticipated. Withdraw. Zexter hissed. No Zorkian fleet has ever retreated from battle. We will bring in planet destroyers. We will obliterate their world entirely. Before Vexlar could respond, alarms sounded throughout the flagship. Unknown vessel detected at Outpost Zeta 9. It's using our FTL signature, but does not match any Zorkian design. The Defiance had arrived at its first target, a Zorkian supply depot that served as a crucial link in their logistics chain. Captain Daniels ordered immediate action. Deploy EMP missiles and target their communication array, she commanded. The human ship moved with surprising agility, striking critical systems before the Zorkians could mount an effective defense. Within 20 minutes, the outpost was disabled without a single casualty on either side. News of the attack spread quickly through what remained of the Zorkian network. For the first time in their expansion, an inferior species had brought the fight to Zorkian territory. Over the next 2 weeks, the Defiance conducted 17 more strikes, each targeting infrastructure rather than populations. Captain Daniels strictly enforced Admiral Carter's orders: no civilian targets, no unnecessary casualties. This approach confused the Zorkians, who expected the humans to seek revenge. Instead, they found their military capabilities being systematically dismantled, while their civilian populations remained untouched. The Galactic Council, a loose association of spacefaring species that had thus far remained neutral in the conflict, took notice. Representatives requested meetings with both human and Zorkian leaders, concerned about the escalation. Admiral Carter transmitted a message directly to Grand Admiral Zexter, bypassing the damaged Zorkian communication network. Your fleet is in disarray. Your supply lines are cut. We have demonstrated the ability to strike anywhere in your territory. We offer terms for your honorable surrender and withdrawal from Earth space. In his command chamber, Zexter raged at the message. The Emperor would have him executed for such a failure. But as reports continued to arrive detailing further human strikes, even he began to see the inevitable. High Commander Vexlar spoke what many were thinking. We have two choices, Grand Admiral. Accept the humans' terms, or escalate to total war, the destruction of their planet, and likely the deaths of billions. The Grand Council chamber of the Zorkian flagship fell silent as High Commander Vexlar finished presenting his case. The evidence was undeniable. Continuing the war against humanity would be catastrophically costly for both sides. The humans have proven themselves not only capable warriors but also merciful victors, Vexlar concluded. They have deliberately avoided civilian targets. They offer us peace with honor. Grand Admiral Zexter had listened without interruption, his 4 eyes unblinking. Now he rose from his command seat. In 10,000 cycles, no Zorkian commander has ever surrendered, he said slowly. But no Zorkian commander has ever faced a species like these humans. He turned to his communication officer. Transmit to Admiral Carter. The Zorkian Empire accepts the terms for cessation of hostilities. On the bridge of the EDF Valiant, Admiral Carter received the message with quiet satisfaction. The war that many had believed would end humanity had instead forged a new path forward. Inform Earth, he ordered Lieutenant Wilson. Then prepare a delegation to meet with the Zorkian representatives. 3 days later, in the neutral space between Earth and Mars, human and Zorkian ships met peacefully for the first time. The Earth delegation included Dr. Kate Winters, whose understanding of Zorkian communication had been crucial to victory, and Captain Olivia Daniels, whose first-hand experience with Zorkian culture provided valuable insight. The negotiations lasted 2 weeks. Both sides approached with caution but growing respect. The Zorkians, accustomed to simply imposing their will on conquered species, found themselves engaged in true diplomatic exchange. We never expected to meet equals in our expansion, Vexlar admitted during one session. Our history taught us that unified species were always superior to individualistic ones. Perhaps true unity comes not from forced conformity, but from will and cooperation, Kate suggested. Our strength comes from our differences, not despite them. News of the human victory spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council, which had long observed the Zorkian expansion with concern, but had been powerless to intervene, sent representatives to Earth. Your species has accomplished something remarkable, the Tellurian ambassador told President Bennett. You have shown that technological superiority alone does not determine the outcome of conflict. We fought because we had to, Bennett replied. But we prefer to make friends rather than enemies. The Council extended an invitation for Earth to join as a full member, an unprecedented offer for a species so newly discovered. The human delegation accepted, seeing the opportunity to establish themselves as equals among the galactic community. Over the following months, the relationship between humans and Zorkians transformed. Scientists from both species began exchanging knowledge. Dr. Sam Cooper led a team working with Zorkian biologists to understand their hive mind tendencies, while Zorkian engineers helped humans improve their faster-than-light technology. Most surprisingly, some younger Zorkians showed interest in human individualism. A cultural exchange program allowed Zorkians to visit Earth and experience human society firsthand. They seem happier here, Dr. Kate Winters observed to Admiral Carter as they watched a group of Zorkian visitors experiencing their first Earth sunset. More alive somehow. Their society gave them security but limited their growth, Carter replied. Sometimes it takes meeting someone different to see new possibilities for yourself. 6 months after the peace accord, a ceremony was held at the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva. High Commander Vexlar, now the Zorkian ambassador to Earth, stood beside Admiral Carter as they unveiled a monument commemorating those lost on both sides. A wiser empire we shall become, Vexlar said, addressing the gathered dignitaries in carefully practiced human speech patterns. Our encounter with humanity has taught us that true strength lies not in conquest, but in mutual respect. After the ceremony, Vexlar and Carter walked alone through the embassy gardens. The setting sun painted the sky in colors that still fascinated the Zorkian. "Your world is beautiful," Vexlar said. "I understand now why you fought so fiercely to protect it." Carter nodded. "We've been fighting to protect our home since we first learned to make weapons. It's in our nature. And yet you choose peace when you could have pursued vengeance," Vexlar observed. "That is what my people are still struggling to understand." "We didn't want war," Carter explained, stopping to watch the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the mountains. "We just refused to be conquered. That's the thing about humans. We'll fight like demons to defend our freedom, but once that's secure, we'd rather be friends."